Roman Reigns isn't working. Now, by that, I don't mean that he literally isn't doing his job, though that could also apply these days, but I mean that the purpose and the goal of the tribal chief isn't being achieved. Now, this marks quite a drastic shift in my own perception of Roman Reigns. I mean, you go back to any podcast SmackDown review in 2020 into 2021, I'm probably going to be talking about how Roman Reigns is the best thing going in wrestling right now. But these days, not so much. So what caused this shift? Why has one of the greatest characters WWE has put out in the last 10 years plus suddenly stopped working? Why has the Tribal Chief now turned into a damaging presence on the WWE roster? Today, we're going to find out. I'm Chopper Pequenel from WrestleTalk, and this is why Roman Reigns isn't working. Now, before we dive in, it would be greatly appreciated if you would like this video and subscribe. Both really help out the channel, and if you're so inclined afterwards, go check out some of the other WrestleTalk videos as well. We upload daily wrestling news videos, in case you didn't know. Now, before we can truly dissect Roman Reigns and his current character, we need to understand his history in WWE and his very complicated relationship with the fans. Because for those of you who might have got into wrestling in the last few years, you might not be aware that it wasn't always plain sailing for the big dog. In the months before the Shield split, who were one of the hottest acts WWE had in years, fans had organically latched onto Reigns as the breakout star of the trio. They still liked Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, but Reigns was the man. Sole Survivor in Survivor Series, we loved it. Most eliminations in Royal Rumble history, we ate it up. But then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. I mean, when the Shield split up. WWE clearly wanted the next John Cena on their hands as Cena wound down his time in the ring, and they had picked Roman Reigns to fill that Cena-shaped hole in their roster. The problem is, Roman Reigns isn't John Cena. WWE tried to make him a carbon copy, right down to the cringy comedy, the lame jokes. They gave him contacts to make his eyes more appealing, I guess, and it did not work. Fans saw right through it and wholeheartedly rejected this new, much worse version of Roman Reigns. Boos rang out in every arena, and more than anything, fans just didn't want a repeat of John Cena because that was a plague that had haunted WWE for a decade. They didn't want the cookie-cutter babyface that was the corporate hand-picked guy. They wanted a voice, and even if the guy that WWE chose had to be at the top of the card, then at least listen to the boos and turn him heel. Almost seemingly in response to the fans not being on board with Roman Reigns, WWE pushed harder, giving him babyface crowning moment after babyface crowning moment. Here's The Rock endorsing him. Here's Daniel Bryan endorsing him. Here's him winning the WWE Championship at WrestleMania 32. Here's him beating The Undertaker at WrestleMania 33. Here he is becoming champion again at SummerSlam 2018, on my birthday of all days. We were in for yet another installment of Reigns becoming champion when we headed into WrestleMania 36, where he was due to face Goldberg for the Universal Championship. But then that little pandemic thing happened, and Reigns took some time off. So when he returned 5 months later at SummerSlam in the Thunderdome, it was a really big deal. Those 5 months were the first time really since 2014 Roman wasn't either champion or right at the top of the card. An absence does make the heart grow fonder. But not only did they bring him back, they listened, they heard the boos, and they finally turned Roman Reigns heel. Finally! Cried out the fans. Finally, we can get what we always wanted, Roman Reigns as a heel. But they didn't just turn him heel. He had a new character to boot, and it was better than we could have hoped for. Gone were the days of the big dog. Now the Tribal Chief was here to stay, and it was absolutely fantastic. He re-debuted with a new attitude. Great. He was paired with Paul Heyman. Great. He won the Universal Championship by being a dick. Great! This was all in the first week of returning, by the way, and he was just getting started. What set Roman apart from pretty much the entirety of the rest of the WWE roster was the fact that he had a coherent story that was furthered every week, even if it was subtle. We understood what Roman wanted. We understood when he was using subversion, when he was lying, when he was being manipulative, and he had tapped into another level of charisma that it felt like he always had, but never was able to fully utilize. With Heyman by his side, though, he was an absolutely next level talent that made can't miss TV every week. And then came the Saga of Jey Uso. I would argue that Roman Reigns' feud with Jey Uso is what made the Tribal Chief. We were all on board with Roman Reigns before this as the Tribal Chief, but this story was such a thing of beauty that it made not only a star out of Jey Uso, but it made Roman Reigns the biggest villain in wrestling. Roman manipulated, gaslit, and straight up abused Jey Uso into a position of submission through 2 fantastic matches filled with drama, emotional story beats, and captivating television, capped off with 2 brilliant performances from Roman and Jey. An emotional climax of Jey refusing to say "I quit" in their "I quit" match until Roman instead targeted his brother Jimmy after he faked them out with actual tears and made them believe he regretted what he was doing. It's magic. Absolute magic. All of Roman's stories from there on out became twofold. The feud with his opponent, who was actually fighting for the title, and how he was going to manipulate and abuse Jey Uso this time. And manipulate him he did. Every single week, it was another instance of subtle yet incredibly poignant words and body language from Roman, of which he has yet to replicate since. Genuinely, if you weren't watching week to week at this time, I would honestly recommend going back to watch his segments each week, because they were honestly greatness on a different level. You know, Goddle mode. But then, things began to change. After a great feud with Jey Uso that lasted through 2 pay-per-views which built fantastically, culminating in Reigns visually and physically becoming the head of the table in a stunning visual following the Hell in a Cell I Quit match, a great match with Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series, Reigns faced Kevin Owens at TLC, which was great. A very fun match and a great furthering of both Reigns and Owens, the first time Owens had felt like a proper main event talent in ages. And then he faced Kevin Owens again at Royal Rumble in a last man standing match, where there was an unfortunate botch where Reigns' handcuffs wouldn't come off, forcing the referee to stop his 10 count, otherwise Reigns would have lost. Botch aside though, this still just felt like a rerun of their TLC match a month before without much reason for the rematch happening, which was a sharp turn from Reigns' run thus far, as it had essentially been impeccable for about 5 months. At Elimination Chamber, Reigns faced Daniel Bryan immediately after Daniel Bryan had won the Elimination Chamber to be given a match with Reigns, which was fine because it was clearly leading to something bigger at WrestleMania. But then Reigns and Daniel Bryan had another match at Fastlane with Edge as the special guest enforcer, and Edge had a stark difference in his character in that his motivations didn't actually make sense. See, what made Reigns' run up to this point so good was not just that Roman Reigns and by extension Jey Uso were written so fantastically, is that his opponents were also written so impeccably, making for simple, logical, emotive storytelling. But Edge was different, because he was upset at Daniel Bryan getting a title shot before him because he won the Royal Rumble that year. But we all know that the Rumble doesn't give you the first shot at a title, it gets you the main event at WrestleMania. Titles change hands all the time at the shows between the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, so there was no reason for Edge to be annoyed by this Daniel Bryan stuff. The plan was clearly originally supposed to be Edge versus Reigns at WrestleMania 37, but the fan reaction online wasn't exactly the best to this idea, so Edge turned heel. Daniel Bryan got inserted into the match at WrestleMania, and the 3 of them put on frankly one of the best WrestleMania main events of the past decade. See, that was the thing at the time, in that it didn't really matter if there were these logical inconsistencies or weird character motivation beats, because people didn't really care, because the matches that Reigns and his opponents put on were so good, people were willing to overlook the cracks in the character that was starting to show. So now, Reigns had run through Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, and Edge. Who else was there for him to beat? Oh my god, they built up Cesaro at WrestleMania with a huge win over Seth Rollins. What if? Said the fans. What if indeed, said WWE. Cesaro faced Reigns at WrestleMania Backlash, a huge culmination for Cesaro, the effort of years and years of hard work paying off in a main event against Roman Reigns for the world title, which he lost, and was then attacked by Seth Rollins, because that feud must continue, I suppose? And right here was the problem. All these people were wonderfully written, the matches were fantastic, and then after Reigns was done with them, they just faded right back to where they were before, or worse. Jey Uso at this point had just become a guy who did Reigns' bidding, with little to no references to Reigns' manipulation of him. And then Jimmy Uso came back, the perfect chance to reignite that side of the story. And Jimmy didn't agree with Reigns, he hadn't forgotten Hell in a Cell last year. That's a great start. He was set to try and bring Jey back to the side of the light to take him out of Reigns' grasp. But that story was sort of dropped, I guess. Reigns did one promo to Jimmy backstage when tensions flared, and after that, Jimmy also just became another guy who did Reigns' bidding, which was anticlimactic to say the least when we knew the potential storyline excellence a Reigns versus an Uso feud can bring. So now Reigns had two lackeys, which is just right back to WWE tropes. Paul Heyman is a talented orator, but at this point was cutting the same promos each week. Yes, we know he's the tribal chief, acknowledge him, etc. And Reigns was really running out of good people to face. Wrestlers would be built up to lose to him and then drop back down the card. He didn't wrestle at Hell in a Cell, instead wrestling Rey Mysterio on the SmackDown before the pay-per-view, weird network stuff that. Then there was an Edge rematch at Money in the Bank, John Cena at SummerSlam, which was fine at best, and then Brock Lesnar came back. The return of a live audience to wrestling has been pretty much universally seen as a good thing. I mean, I missed those pops when people were gone, don't get me wrong, but I also truly believe that the return of a live audience to wrestling killed the tribal chief. In a curated environment like the Thunderdome, Reigns' presentation was much tighter, his promos were shorter, everything felt more impactful. But with the return of live fans, it means he now needs to do a 10-minute entrance and a 5-minute promo before anything can happen because, well, the fans have come to see Roman Reigns. The cracks in the armor mounted, and before we knew it, Reigns was just the guy again. The guy at the top of the company that WWE had chosen, and despite people losing interest in his title reign at a rapid rate, they plowed on. Take a look at those wrestlers Reigns faced in his run. Jey Uso, Kevin Owens, Daniel Bryan, Edge, Cesaro, John Cena, Finn Balor, dear God, Finn Balor, Brock Lesnar again, and Brock Lesnar again. Where are they now? How were they treated right after their match with Reigns? Jey Uso, another tag guy. Kevin Owens, right down the card doing comedy. Daniel Bryan, well, he's in AEW tearing it up. Edge, kicked out of his own group. Cesaro, released. John Cena, not around. Brock Lesnar, not around until he comes back for another rematch again. Finn Balor, do I even need to say it? The demon was buried by the ropes, of all things, and he dropped immediately back down the card. Goldberg, not around. The tribal chief has not helped WWE. It's helped Roman Reigns. And you know what? Good for him. But it's left WWE in an absolute state in his wake, filled with wrestlers who couldn't beat Reigns, left with little to no character and absolutely zero main eventers to speak of. Because that was the real issue, in that we'd seen these wrestlers have amazing characters in their feud with Reigns, and now we were seeing them without characters, leaving us to ponder, to wonder why. Why, WWE? Why can't you just have these wrestlers have these characters all the time? We've seen you write these wrestlers well. Why can't you just write them well all the time? And now, he's not even really around to defend the 2 world titles he won at WrestleMania 38, meaning all those wrestlers he beat and felt lesser than him now have to make up the weekly shows that we're supposed to care about. Reigns' tribal chief run can be summed up with this. It stopped being a question of who will dethrone Roman Reigns to when will Roman Reigns be dethroned, which drastically changes the framing of the question from something positive, something that could be speculated about and fantasy booked, into something negative, something that insinuates boredom, a lack of progress, the status quo. It's lackluster. The tribal chief may have built the island of relevancy, but that island is now slipping away into irrelevancy. And that is why Roman Reigns isn't working. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you did in the comments. I'd also appreciate a like and a subscribe. We're trying new stuff on WrestleTalk, so let me know if you like it. We've got more this style of videos coming out soon, hopefully. Also, watch another WrestleTalk video, because that's really good for the algorithm. That helps, so go check out some of our other videos. If you're unaware of what we do, we upload daily wrestling news videos, so go check those out as well. That'd be really appreciated. Thank you so much. I've been Pete Quinnell from WrestleTalk. Jam that jam, I guess. Bye.